Last time we saw that cells, and any living thing, is part of at least one system and typically many more than that. And that systems have two problems. They need energy and they need materials. They need matter. Energy isn't always readily available. It might have to be transformed. And matter can't be created, but we need a constant supply. So there are four chemical processes that help life overcome the energy and matter problems. We're going to look at those four processes in a little more detail. We're going to start with digestion. Digestion is the breakdown of materials. Chemical digestion breaks bonds to split larger chemicals, like macromolecules, into smaller chemicals, like monomers or subunits. We're going to start by matching these three purple labels to the diagram that they best demonstrate. The first diagram shows amylase, which is an enzyme, and starch, which is a substrate. When they join together, the enzyme helps to break the starch into smaller pieces. The substrate or the reactant is the starch. So, which of these labels best matches? Decomposers, an enzyme, or foods are broken down and absorbed? Hopefully, you'll see that this is an enzyme which is helping to break down starch. The next diagram shows a cat eating food. And as the cat eats the food is broken down into smaller pieces, which are then sent to different cells in all the parts of the cat's body. So pieces of food are broken down into M called nutrients. What does that M stand for? Molecules. And this diagram is showing foods being broken down and absorbed. Finally, we see over here a tree. A leaf falls from the tree. The leaf is then broken down by organisms like fungus or bacteria, which then release the broken down molecules of that leaf into the soil, which can then be reused by the tree as it continues to grow and live. What holds the nutrients between the bacteria and the tree use? The soil. And this is a demonstration of decomposers breaking down dead organisms like the leaf. So we have three examples of digestion, allowing materials to be broken down into smaller pieces where they can then be reused so that the material doesn't stay locked up in the living organisms and it becomes easier to use. Proteins play a very important role in this process. Most chemical digestion is regulated and assisted by protein enzymes, like the amylase that we saw in the first example. Now let's look at transport. Transport and digestion go together. Transport is the movement of materials. Once they're broken down, they have to move to where they're needed. Transport delivers nutrients, things that are needed, and removes wastes, things that are toxic. In our first example here, we have a picture of the plasma membrane. And glucose is moving through this membrane using a protein in the membrane. The plasma membrane surrounds the cell. So this process where the glucose passes through the plasma membrane allows the cell access to glucose, which is a nutrient it needs. It's transporting it in. That transport of sugar into the cell, I'm going to drag that label over, is an important part of the energy solution, which we'll talk about a little bit later. What about this diagram? Here we see these red arrows, and they're showing us the direction of water. Water moves from the soil into the roots, and then it is transported up, up, up through the plant to all of the cells in the leaves at the very tip of each branch. So water is moving up against gravity in this diagram, which is pretty impressive. How does it do it? It uses special cells called xylem and a process called transpiration, which is the movement of water up, 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 and then water vapor from the water not used being released from the leaves. Finally, we have the transport of oxygen and nutrients by blood, which happens in animals. Here we have a vessel with blood in it, and we see from the vessel we've got water and glucose and amino acids leaving the blood and entering the surrounding cells, along with oxygen, which was transported by the hemoglobin in the red blood cells. And the cells are releasing their waste products into the blood supply to be carried away. So the things that are entering are things like water and glucose, and we saw in the first example exactly how it gets into the cell, and amino acids, which you might remember the cell will use to make proteins that it needs. Proteins play an important role in all of these. Proteins like hemoglobin carry the oxygen in the blood. Proteins in the cell membrane help to move glucose, which came from the blood, into the cell. And protein hormones, like insulin, tell the cells when it's time to take in glucose, in the case of insulin, or other nutrients. Transport into a cell happens across the cell's plasma membrane. There are a few terms that you need to understand to really understand transport. The first is concentration. Concentration means the amount of a chemical that's present in a certain area, like how much water is there or how much salt. If it's a high concentration, there's a lot. If it's a low concentration, there's not much. Gradient is a word that simply means difference. So a concentration gradient is the difference in concentration from one area, like outside the cell, to another, like inside the cell. Molecules will naturally move with the gradient. What does that mean? It means that without extra energy needed, as long as they can move freely through a membrane, they are going to move from an area of high concentration and spread out to areas of lower concentration. In this diagram, we see this red molecule, and you can count and see there are 5 outside the cell. But inside the cell, which is below the plasma membrane shown, there are none. So you would think that this molecule would move easily into the cell. It should. It's moving from an area of high to low concentration. What's stopping the molecule from moving in? Well, the answer is it can't get through the plasma membrane because it's too big. So it is too big to fit through the gaps in the plasma membrane. So if the cell wants it, it's going to have to do some work to get it. The cell's plasma membrane uses this ability to keep some things out, like things that maybe would be harmful to the cell, in order to help the cell survive and thrive. The plasma membrane acts as a boundary that would wrap all the way around the cell's cytoplasm. We say that the plasma membrane is selectively permeable because of this ability. Selective means to choose, and permeable means to allow things to pass through. So it chooses what passes through. And to do that, it relies on its structure. It has 2 chemicals in its structure. It has phospholipids, which are these little balloon-looking items, and it has carrier proteins, which are these big, chunky, blue embedded items. So the two parts are the phospholipids, and you see there's tons of those, and they are in two layers, and proteins, which are embedded to help transport things across. Remember that red molecule? Remember that it couldn't get across on its own, even though it would have been moving from high to low because it was too big? Well, some transport requires energy to happen. Either the molecule can't get through, or maybe we need it to move from a low to high concentration. In that case, the cell is going to have to use energy to make it happen. So when we talk about transport, we talk about two kinds: passive, which happens without any extra energy from the cell, and active, which is transport that happens only because the cell will use energy to make that transport happen. Passive transport moves with the gradient from high to low because that's how molecules will naturally move. It includes diffusion, which is the movement of any molecule from high to low through a membrane, and it requires no cell energy. Osmosis is the diffusion of water. So if we're talking about water moving from high to low, we're going to use the word osmosis. It's just a special type of diffusion. The cell may also use active transport, and that's to get things that wouldn't normally come in, but it's willing to use energy to get them in because it needs them, or out, as the case may be. This is when the cell will move things against the gradient from low to high, or it will move very large molecules or very charged molecules that are having trouble getting across that physical structure of the membrane. It requires energy from the cell. And when we talk about energy in the cell, we're really talking about the use of a little chemical called ATP. But we'll study that in more detail later. So let's review what we've just described for passive and active transport. Active or passive? If it's high to low, it tends to be passive. If it uses ATP energy, that's active. Diffusion, movement of any molecule from high to low through a membrane, passive. Movement of water, that's osmosis, and it's a special kind of diffusion, so it's passive. Against the gradient, that means from low to high concentrations, active. Here's a challenge question for you. Pause the video and take a minute to read it and try to answer. Then come back and check your answer. In a plant, water gets sent to the leaves. Sugar gets sent from the leaves. No sugar gets sent to the leaves, but they do get water and CO2. How do the leaves get the sugars that they need for energy? They are going to use what they get, which is the CO2 and the water, H2O, to make the sugar. And we'll learn more about that in just a little bit. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.